Hi, I'm Richard Karn, and you may have seen me on TV talking about the world's #1 expandable garden hose. Well, the brand new Pocket Hose Copperhead with Pocket Pivot is here, and it's a total game changer. Old-fashioned hoses get kinks and creases at the spigot, but the Copperhead's Pocket Pivot swivels 360 degrees for full water flow and freedom to water with ease all around your home. When you're all done, this rust-proof anti-burst hose shrinks back down to pocket size for effortless handling and tidy storage. Plus, your super light and ultra-durable Pocket Hose Copperhead is backed with a 10-year warranty. What could be better than that? I'll tell you what, an exciting radio-exclusive offer just for you. For a limited time, you can get a free Pocket Pivot and their 10-pattern sprayer with the purchase of any size Copperhead hose. Just text WATER to 64,000. That's WATER to 64,000 for your 2 free gifts with purchase. WATER to 64,000.
By texting 64,000, you agree to receive recurring automated marketing messages from Pocket Hose. Message and data rates may apply. No purchase required. Terms apply. Available at pockethose.com/terms.
Coming up this season on DNA ID, a couple shot at a campground, a realtor waylaid at a home showing, a bookstore owner stabbed among her volumes, a young soldier dumped in a parking lot. What do all these tragic cases have in common? They are all cold cases solved after decades of frustration and futility by forensic genealogy. I'm Jess Betancourt, and in Season 2 of DNA ID, I'll bring you 24 more fascinating cases in which the killer eluded generations of investigators until science and some crafty genealogists cracked them at long last. Listen to DNA ID on your favorite podcast platform. New episodes drop every other Monday, starting January 10th, 2022.
You're listening to The Murder in My Family, brought to you by AbJack Entertainment. Be sure to check out some of the other great true crime podcasts from this network, including Missing Persons, DNA ID, Beyond Bizarre True Crime, Zodiac Speaking, Scene of the Crime, 3 Men and a Mystery, and All Things Crime. All of these podcasts are available for you to binge on right now, wherever you listen to podcasts. Subscribe where you're listening to this podcast so you don't miss an episode.
The views and opinions expressed by guests on this podcast do not necessarily represent those of the podcast, its host, or sponsors. If you would like to discuss the murder in your family on this podcast, please be sure to visit themurderinmyfamily.com for more information. You can support this podcast by visiting patreon.com/themurderinmyfamily. This episode may contain unsettling material or subject matter. Listener discretion is advised.
Thank you for joining me for this episode of The Murder in My Family. I'm your host, Mike Morford. In this episode, we'll be discussing the tragic and violent murder of a beloved granddaughter alongside her friend in a hail of gunfire that's left both police and a heartbroken grandmother searching for answers. We'll dive into this case after some quick housekeeping. Independent podcasts like this one depend on word of mouth to bring in new listeners. So if you find that you enjoy this show, please take a minute to rate and review it wherever you listen to your podcast. And be sure to introduce a friend to the show and invite them to listen. With your help, The Murder in My Family can continue to grow and reach a new audience. To learn more about the show or the cases we discuss, please visit themurderinmyfamily.com. You can also find us on Twitter with the handle @MurderInMyFam, or by searching for the Murder in My Family podcast on Facebook. If you'd like to support this show through a Patreon donation, it's always appreciated. And you can do so by visiting patreon.com/The Murder in My Family. Benefits of supporting the show on Patreon include early access to ad-free episodes of the show, plus bonus content not heard in regular episodes. Support may also include thank you cards, stickers, and more. If you prefer to, you can also support the show through a PayPal donation by visiting paypal.me/The Murder in My Family. In each episode, I'll give shout-outs to any new supporters. And thank you to all of the supporters that generously donate to help keep the show growing and improving. One last note. Please consider supporting any of the sponsors that you hear on The Murder in My Family, the way that those sponsors support the show. It's with our sponsor support that the show can go on and continue to provide a platform to share these stories with you in every episode. Thank you. And now on with the show. On Friday, April 26, 2019, Frances No, a Kentucky grandmother, received a call that no grandparent ever wants to receive. The Fayette County Coroner's Office was informing her that she had outlived her granddaughter, 28-year-old Heather Grigsby. It wasn't an accident that had taken Heather's life, nor was it an illness. Heather was gunned down alongside a male friend of hers, and Frances wants to know who did it and why. Heather Danielle Grigsby was born in Florence, Alabama on December 15, 1990, to Christopher Grigsby and Terry Brewer. Heather, whose nickname was Brooklyn, has been described as full of life, a wonderful sister and aunt who loved to sing and dance. She and her grandmother, Frances, loved to do arts and crafts together. Frances had raised Heather from a very young age, and the two were very close. Heather received her GED after dropping out of high school. Frances recalls how much children were drawn to Heather, and they loved her, and it was Heather's dream to get married and have kids. But sadly, she would never get the chance to. Frances had last spoken to her granddaughter just 2 days earlier on Wednesday, April 24th, and as far as she can remember, Heather sounded fine, upbeat, and said she was hanging out with a friend. To this day, Frances regrets not asking who she was with or where. Heather had been discovered dead in a car on Lexington, Kentucky's East End, along with a male friend of hers, 44-year-old Shannon Goodwin. This neighborhood was a mostly residential area, sandwiched between several different churches and elementary schools. From descriptions of the area, this wasn't the best of neighborhoods. Both Heather and Shannon weren't living in Lexington at the time. Heather was from Nicholasville, about 25 minutes south of Lexington, and Shannon was from Jeffersonville, about an hour's drive east. By the time Frances received the call, the news of 2 bodies found in the east end of Lexington had already been reported, but at the time, the 2 were unidentified. Family members have no idea why Heather and Shannon were parked at that location on the corner where Goodloe Street and Race Street meet. As I mentioned, it's an area known to be high in crime, but Heather and Shannon's deaths, 2 of Lexington's 30 murders in 2019, didn't seem random, according to Lexington Police Detective Tim Moore, who said publicly, it seemed especially violent toward them. It seemed personal. It's unclear what exactly led investigators to believe this wasn't a random robbery or case of mistaken identity, or even just a random shooting. The East End is generally thought of as a place of crime, and it's a place where residents typically don't come forward with information related to those crimes. CommunityCrimeMap.com shows multiple burglaries, car thefts, and assaults in the immediate area, with very heavy crime just to the north. News of Heather being killed alongside Shannon was surprising, as Heather's family had no idea who Shannon was. Heather had never told her family about Shannon Goodwin, and Shannon's family had never heard of Heather either. There was no indication that Shannon was involved in any activity that would have placed the 2 of them on that street that night in danger. Both families are at a loss as to what happened and why. Heather had a history of dating guys who were up to no good, and they often didn't treat her well. Police looked into the men that Heather had dated and looked for anyone close to her, or anyone close to Shannon, who may have had a motive to kill the pair, but no leads panned out. They wondered if it was possible that one of the 2 was the intended victim, and the other collateral damage. The tip did come in, but the suspects weren't close to the victims, and there wasn't enough information for a warrant. The identity of the suspect or suspects has never been revealed, and police are waiting for the information they need to move forward. On the night of the murders, April 25th, it was cold and raining all night. People were inside their homes. Residents in the area did call police after hearing gunfire. Both Heather and Shannon were shot multiple times. Police arrived at the scene around 3:45 a.m. When they arrived, Heather and Shannon had already passed away. According to the Facebook page Justice for Heather Danielle Grigsby, which is run by her grandmother Frances, several bullet casings were found and recovered at the scene. But it rained so hard that night that other evidence may have been washed away by the rain. It's unclear whether the car they were driving belonged to Shannon, but in early reports, there were indications there were no plates on the vehicle. Some people speculated that Heather and Shannon had taken this vehicle there to that area to buy drugs and were killed in a drug deal gone bad, but there were no drugs found in the car. Police believe that this wasn't the reason for these murders, and there wasn't any evidence supporting that being the case. Since the murders, police are surprised that there aren't more rumors going around or talk in the streets about who committed these murders. Then again, there's always fear of retaliation from those responsible that keeps witnesses from coming forward and sharing information that they might have. But police are hopeful that enough time has passed that someone might be willing to talk. Heather's friend Shannon Ray Goodwin was a self-employed mechanic, born on June 29, 1974 in Lexington, Kentucky. Guest book entries on his online obituary call him polite and helpful, but there's not much else known about him. Almost 3 years after the murders, it appears that police are no closer to identifying the person or persons who pulled the trigger. But one tip can make a difference. If you know anything about the murders of Heather Grigsby and Shannon Goodwin, you're encouraged to contact the Lexington Police at 859-258-3600 or the Bluegrass Crime Stoppers, who can take your anonymous tip via phone at 859-253-2020. Frances Snow has had to deal with the tragedy of losing her granddaughter, but also a lack of answers and even communication from the police department that's supposed to be helping her. Frances sat down to discuss Heather's senseless murder with me and the aftermath. That conversation is coming up in just a moment. After a long day, I just want to curl up on the couch and get lost in a gripping story with characters that I can love and hate. Is that too much to ask? Nope. Thanks to Sundance Now, I always have something to watch that's binge-worthy and that I can be obsessed with. Sundance Now is an ad-free streaming network created by AMC Networks for people who obsess over riveting storytelling and fresh perspectives. Sundance Now has original prestige dramas, international thrillers, and bone-chilling true crime shows. Every show is a sleek production with sexy lead characters. They've got shows like the hit British series, A Discovery of Witches. It's the perfect mix of period drama, romance, and edge-of-your-seat thriller. Seasons 1 and 2 are streaming now, and Season 3, the final season, just began streaming on January 8th. I recently watched The Discovery of Witches. With a fantastic cast and well-written episodes, A Discovery of Witches is a fantastic show blending mystery, fantasy, vampires, and a host of strange creatures. If you're a fan of this genre, you'll find yourself captivated by the storytelling. And best of all, you have all 3 seasons to binge on. You can stream Sundance Now on all your favorite devices for as low as $4.99 a month. Just download the app or watch online and discover exclusive shows from around the world instantly. I found my next TV obsession on Sundance Now, and you will too. And I have great news. Listeners of The Murder My Family can try Sundance Now free for 30 days by going to SundanceNow.com and use promo code MurderInMyFamily. That's SundanceNow.com, code MurderInMyFamily for 30 days of free streaming. SundanceNow.com, code MurderInMyFamily. In the era of one of the most heinous serial killers of all time, one murderous crew went curiously unnoticed. The McCrarys committed countless abductions, murders, robberies, and created general mayhem everywhere they went. Families Who Kill the Donut Shop Murders is a true crime miniseries that follows a family who banded together to terrorize small-town America, embarking on a brutal crime spree that captivated the nation. Led by the criminal duo of Sherman and his son-in-law Carl, this disturbed family targeted people working night shifts in donut shops. In the Donut Shop Murders, you'll hear the details of their story for the first time from one of the McCrarys and the detective who tracked them across the country as they left death and destruction in their wake. What I like about the Donut Shop Murders is that the story sucks you in and makes you feel like you're there with the McCrarys as they commit one shocking crime after another. If you're drawn to excellent storytelling, you'll love the Donut Shop Murders. It's binge-worthy. Follow Families Who Kill the Donut Shop Murders on Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, or you can binge all 6 episodes ad-free by subscribing to Wondery Plus in Apple Podcast or the Wondery app. Hi, Frances, and thanks for coming on The Murder My Family to discuss your granddaughter, Heather Grigsby's case with us today.
Thank you. Glad to be doing it.
Yeah, and it's obviously something that's been important to you to try and get justice for her and an ordeal, no doubt about it, for your family. I guess I want to say first off that as parents, we want our kids to outlive us, and I'm sure the same is true of a grandparent.
Yes.
Like yourself, you want your grandchildren to have a rich and full life, and you never want them to be gone before you. In Heather's case, her life ended far too young. She was just 28. And it's not as if Heather died from an illness or disease or something, but she was gunned down violently. How hard has it been for you to cope with not only losing your granddaughter, but knowing that she met that kind of violent end?
Well, there's not a day that goes by that I don't try to seek justice for Heather. She was also killed with a friend of hers. His name was Shannon. And they were sitting in the car and when they were killed. So I didn't know the Shannon, but Heather, I got custody of Heather whenever she was 2 years old. So I raised her. And it's not only paying for a funeral that I couldn't afford, but just living with not seeing her, not talking to her, because she and I had a very close bond. And if something went wrong and she wasn't here, she would call me, and I would always go to her wherever she was at and bring her home. And there's been a lot of tears shed. I go to her grave, which she's buried here in Nicholasville, Kentucky, and I go to her grave a lot, and I decorate it for all holidays and try to take care of it the best I can. It's just something that I never would imagine that would happen to my family. And I do listen to true crime a lot since she died. And I subscribe to a lot of different YouTube channels. And it's just very interesting. But it lets me know that I'm not the only one. Yeah. Even though it doesn't take away my pain, but still there's others out there that's feeling the pain that I feel.
Yeah. Sadly, there's way too many of stories like Heather's and a lot of families and parents and grandparents going through the kind of stuff you're going through.
Right. Yeah. She was always so bubbly, always so giggly, and she wanted everybody to have a good day. She had her demons, don't get me wrong. But she was, in all, a good person, had a good heart. She'd give you the shirt off her back. She always wanted to help somebody. And it's just sad that she didn't really get the chance, because she always went after, like, the bad boy type guys, if you understand what I'm saying. And I don't know. It's just a horrible, horrible nightmare, even though this April she'll be gone 3 years, and it's been 3 years of hell, if I can say that.
Sure. And we're going to get into the details about what happened, what we know, but can you tell us a bit about maybe Heather's life growing up and maybe up until the time when she was killed?
Well, like I said, I got her when she was 2. Her mother is my daughter, Terry. And her dad, his name was Christopher Grigsby, which he recently passed last month. But he walked out on Heather and her mom and her little brother when Heather was, she was 1.5, I think. And then after that, then my daughter, Terry, she went wild and wasn't taking good care of her kids. So then I got them. So anyway, she just grew up, and she would call me Mom and always call my husband Dad. And I said, no, now, you know, your mom's Terry. I know. And I put her in a little academy for daycare. And they said that they thought that she did it because of the other kids always running my mom or dad or whatever. And so that every time she would say that, I'd always correct her. But then we moved from Somerset, Kentucky in 94 to Nicholasville, Kentucky. And she went to school, started school, going to school here. And she didn't play any sports. She loved to sing. She loved to dance. And then she got to where she wasn't doing too good in school and went to alternative school here. And anyway, she ended up quitting, and then she got her GED. And then she was into dating, and like I said, she wanted to date the bad boys. And she was always searching because she didn't have a relationship with her dad. She talked to her mom some, but she hadn't seen her dad since she was 1.5 years old. And of course, he lived in another state down in Alabama, and we're here in Kentucky. And but anyway, then she was going to school, like I said, and then she dropped out. She got her GED, and she was taking classes at the college in Lexington, Kentucky. Well, then she ended up not doing that. She got with some guy, and it was just one guy, and then they would be abusive, and she'd get another abusive, and it just went on like that. And she would come to me and talk to me a lot. Like I said, we did have a good relationship, a close relationship, to where I was always open. You can tell me anything. I won't get mad. I won't fuss at you, but we will talk about it. And she did. She sat in here in my bedroom on the edge of the bed a lot of nights talking to me about different things. And she just got to where every time she's seen anyone, if it was a female especially, she'd always say, "Good morning, beautiful. Hello, beautiful," or whatever. She always wanted to make sure that female knew that she was beautiful. And she was always so nice to anybody. But then she was a fighter, too. So, I mean, if you crossed her wrong or whatever, male or female, she would fight them. And I don't know. She was just the apple of my husband's eye. I mean, whenever he passed away in 2010, and I think that really hit her hard. And then after that, it just seemed like she just went to Lexington, which is the next town over. She went to Lexington, and she just started running with wild people and doing all kinds of stuff, including drugs. And every once in a while, she'd come home. I don't know if she'd come home to take a break or what, but she would come home. And then next thing you know, she'd be gone again. But other than her going out and doing drugs, I mean, she wasn't a thief or nothing like that. And she was just a good person. She just had, I think, issues by her father leaving, and then Donnie, my husband, died, and I think she just had problems like that. I look back now and think, why didn't I get her some help or something?
And things like that, little things that, looking back, you can put your finger on and say, well, she was missing her father in her life, and then your husband, who was pretty much her father for most of her life, he's gone. It's those kind of things that I think you can look at and say they make a difference in someone's life, and perhaps in Heather's as well. At the time when Heather was killed, what was going on in her life at that point? Was she working? Was she going to school? What was she doing at that time?
She was working at a Subway shop. It wasn't Subway. It was something else. I can't remember the name of it, in Lexington. And she would walk to work. She was living with a boyfriend, and she was walking backwards and forth to work. And she called me on March the 26th, 2019. And she said, Gran. That's what she called me. She said, Gran. I said, what? She said, can you come and get me before her boyfriend, I'm not going to say his name, her boyfriend does something? She said, because he's already beat me with a dog chain. I said, where you at? I'm on my way. And by the time I got there, of course, he had left. I got her. Well, I called 911. And Officer Young, Lexington Police Department, he come out. Well, he called another officer after he took the report and everything, he called another officer, and they came out and they took pictures of her bruises and whelps on her back and her face and chest and arms and everything. And then whenever that other officer left, then we got in the car, and that officer, he come over to the car, and he said, Heather, he just talked to Heather like a father would. And he told her that, a lot of these situations don't turn out good. And so I brought her home, and the whole week she was talking to the boyfriend. And on April the 3rd, 2019, I had already come to bed, and she come in here, and she said, Gran, I said, what? She said that her boyfriend was going to meet her down the road, and she was going back. And I said, why, Heather? And I said, the next time, I said, he could kill you. And she said, but I love him. Anyway, so that was on April the 3rd. And then on April the 26th, she was murdered. And no one's seen nothing. No one knows nothing. The detective that's on the case don't hardly contact me. I've never met him face to face. I've asked to meet face to face. I don't have not even a pair of socks that belong to Heather. All her clothes and everything, the so-called boyfriend said he didn't have nothing. So I guess everything was gave away, thrown away, or whatever. But I don't have, like I said, I don't have anything that belonged to Heather.
It's interesting. You hit the nail right on the head when you say the next time he may, kill you.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times things start out and then they escalate in abusive relationships where it does end with someone being killed. And unfortunately, a pattern is that the person seems to go back with them. They think they'll change, or they think they'll be a better person, and that won't happen again. But what was it like when she did go back with him? Did you hear from her after that that he was treating her well, or was there any more abuse that you know of?
I don't know. No, she went back on April the 3rd, and I don't know, for the next couple of weeks, I didn't hear a word. And then she sent me a message, and she said, Gran, I'm doing okay. And that's all I knew. Mm-hmm. And I hadn't talked to her or anything other than the message. And then, like I said, the coroner had called me on the 26th and asked me if I was Frances. No. And I said, yes. She said, are you driving? And I said, no. She said, are you at home? I said, yeah. And she said, I hate to have to tell you over the telephone. So that's how I found out that Heather, she said, it's been on the news all day. I said, well, honey, I haven't even watched the news today. And anyway, we talked, and the boyfriend wasn't arrested for the beating her with the dog chain until the day after Heather's funeral, which was May the 6th. So May the 7th is whenever I found out he was arrested finally. And he bonded out, and then he went to court in July, and they dismissed it and threw it out of court because she was not here to testify against him. Yeah. And I said, that's not fair. I told the prosecuting attorney, I said, because you got pictures, you have her written statement. That should be enough, but it wasn't.
Yeah. And I guess that's one of the hiccups in the legal system, is that if someone's not there to face their accuser, then they can't take what they have to say, unfortunately. And, it seems like in this instance, this boyfriend got away with something that he shouldn't have gotten away with. So you got this call out of the blue, the coroner contacting you. How soon was the first police interaction? How soon did they reach out to you and start talking with you? Okay.
That same day, the detective called me, and the prosecuting attorney, the coroner, also called me and the detective, and they said, "Oh yes, he's a good detective. He'll have this solved." And da 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 da. Well, it's still not solved, and I've asked to meet with him face to face, which he never will. I have called him; he don't return calls. I send him emails. 98% of the time, he does not respond to my emails. So I called his boss. Well, then he contacted me. It's not that I'm trying to get anybody in trouble. I'm not trying to be ugly, but if I ask you a question or I suggest anything, I gave him names of people that I don't remember now, but my daughter had gave me names of these people in Lexington that wasn't good people, and which my daughter, Heather's mom, and he still would not respond. I sent him a email before. It was before Christmas, might have been before Thanksgiving. And I said, why don't Lexington take all these unsolved cases of Kentucky, or also the missing cases that's unsolved in Kentucky? I said, and run their pictures on a digital billboard across the town or whatever. He didn't even respond, say, we can't do that, or that's not a good idea, or good idea. He just didn't respond.
Wow. I've talked to people like yourselves that have lost someone, and the detectives that they're working with are very good, and they have a good relationship with them, and they communicate with them. But unfortunately, I talk to even more people that they don't get calls, they don't get emails returned. And I really think that in a lot of these cases, the detective, the investigator that's working on the case has to know how to open up and have a line of communication with a family member, even if it's just to say, hey, we're working on this. We're not going to give up. We're going to try different things, whatever it is, just to be there for you in some kind of way. And it sounds like in your case, that's just not happening.
Right. And Kristen Flum, she's a news anchor at Fox 56 News in Lexington, Kentucky. She's been out here and talked to me. She's run Heather's story a few times. She's the only one that I can say that has really tried to help. And it's just been very disheartening. Not only is a murderer walking free from killing two people, but he's seeing his family and friends and holidays and stuff. Heather's not. Sure. Heather's birthday was December the 15th, and here's another birthday without her. Yeah. And I should be gone before her.
Yeah, not trying to figure out who killed her, after her birthday. And again, it's good that you have someone like Kristen Sloan, you mentioned, on your side to help you sort of go through the details, since the police aren't willing to do it. And maybe she would help you put some pressure, turn up the heat on the investigator to light a fire under his butt, to help him, communicate with you, to do something, say something, respond, because a lot of times it takes something like shaming them to get them to do anything. So maybe she can put a little bit of pressure on him and report that he's not responding to you. Again, I'm a big law enforcement supporter, but I hate the fact that some investigators are just not very good at their communication skills. And I understand that sometimes they need to protect information. They can't share what they know, that kind of stuff. But to not return your emails, not give you a call, not to stop by and say, hey, I'm working on this, I'm not going to give up. Those are the things that are just not forgivable.
Right. Well, like I said, I live in Nicholasville, and this happened in Lexington, which is the next town, which is, you run out of Nicholasville straight into Lexington. And, I've been down to the police department in Lexington, and I had to go down there to pick up a police report for it. And I paid for it, and then they sent it to me in mail. And I've called and somebody that answers phones they'll say, okay, let me put you through. And they'll put me through. And then I get his voicemail and I leave a message and he won't call me back. Yeah. And I've asked to meet face to face with him. And like I said, he won't even do that. And I know that he's probably busy. I know that there's other murder cases in Lexington that's unsolved. And I know he's busy, but I feel like if a detective, after you've spent a year or two on something and you can't do it, maybe pass it off to fresher eyes or something. Maybe give it to somebody else, the case. I mean, I don't know how they do that. Yeah. And maybe I do too much true crime. But anyway, I just feel like do something. I mean, put up the billboard. Let the state, the county, whatever, pay for all these missing people in Kentucky, or pay for all these murder victims that their family has no closure.
Sure. And I mean, it takes, I don't want to, belittle, stay on this point too long, but it angers me when I hear this, that a family member is not getting any kind of response. It takes 60 seconds to make a phone call or to send an email. It's not like he has to take an hour out of his day to come out to drive out to you and sit down with you in person and explain stuff to you. So what he's doing is pretty much inexcusable. So I hope something lights a fire under his butt and that he realizes that he should at least reach out to you and have some kind of, update or whatever.
Hi, I'm Richard Karn, and you may have seen me on TV talking about the world's #1 expandable garden hose. Well, the brand new Pocket Hose Copperhead with Pocket Pivot is here, and it's a total game changer. Old-fashioned hoses get kinks and creases at the spigot, but the Copperhead's Pocket Pivot swivels 360 degrees for full water flow and freedom to water with ease all around your home. When you're all done, this rust-proof anti-burst hose shrinks back down to pocket size for effortless handling and tidy storage. Plus, your super light and ultra-durable Pocket Hose Copperhead is backed with a 10-year warranty. What could be better than that? I'll tell you what, an exciting radio-exclusive offer just for you. For a limited time, you can get a free Pocket Pivot and their 10-pattern sprayer with the purchase of any size Copperhead hose. Just text WATER to 64,000. That's WATER to 64,000 for your 2 free gifts with purchase. WATER to 64,000.
By texting 64,000, you agree to receive recurring automated marketing messages from Pocket Hose. Message and data rates may apply. No purchase required. Terms apply. Available at pockethose.com/terms.
Just let's talk a little bit about what you've been able to gather about the place where this happened, the crime scene that Heather and this man, Shannon, her friend, were found in. It was a car. Am I correct in that it wasn't either of their vehicles and that it had no license plates on it?
I'm not sure, because see, I don't know that guy, Shannon. I don't know him. I've never met him, never heard his name until this happened. And all I know is, for whatever reason, she was in the passenger side, he was the driver, and they were on the corner of Goodlow and Ray Street in Lexington, which is a bad neighborhood. But Heather, she knew a lot of the people over there. She hung out over there a lot. And the only thing that I know is that that's where she lost her life. I have the picture of the car that they were murdered in. And, I mean, it's a situation to where all you know is that they're gone, that they were murdered, but you don't have anything else. And I just know that both of them were shot multiple times. And I know the police said that it wasn't a drug or alcohol related. I know that on the news, the detective said that this was very personal, and he just don't, he don't tell me a whole lot, which I understand. And he said that it was just very personal, and so that's all I know. But I do know that the neighborhood was not the very best of neighborhoods.
So you don't know all the details about it. Were they able to find anything? You said there were no witnesses either, no one that reported seeing or hearing anything?
People heard all the gunfire, but nobody says they've seen anything, which this one lady had contacted me and said that she lived right there next to where Heather died. and she said that her and her boyfriend heard all the gunfire. They rolled out of the bed. They hit the floor. And then she heard this loud car speed off. But she said, I apologize. I was too scared to look out the window, which I probably would have been too.
Sure. That's human nature. And, just to you hear shooting outside your house, you're jumping down on the floor. I don't blame her, and I think that's understandable.
Yes. I mean, I couldn't imagine. Anyway, so a few days later, that girl said that her and her boyfriend moved. She said, but whenever we moved here, we were told, if you see anything, hear anything, keep your mouth shut, or you will be in danger.
Oh, wow. So warned by someone on the street that might have, been responsible or had some role in it?
Yes, and this was on the Lexington Police Facebook page where they were talking about another murder, and I had responded on that, made a comment, and then that girl, that's whenever she told me, and she told me that's what she told me.
Had Heather ever talked to you about anyone that was dangerous or she was afraid of, or anyone she was having problems with?
No, the only person that she was in fear of was her boyfriend and this other guy, and I don't know, I probably shouldn't say his name, and which I told the detective, and this other guy that was in jail here in Nicholasville, I think it was last year, was in the cell, and he contacted my daughter and said that this guy knew who killed Heather. So right then I contacted the detective. I gave him the name, where he was at, and everything. Well, I finally sent him another email a few days later. I said, well, did you talk to him? No, they're already out and released. Okay, find his address. Go talk to him.
Yeah, just because he's not in jail doesn't mean you can't talk to him.
Exactly. So that ended that. I mean.
Wow. As far as you know, that person, they never talked to him or listened to what he had to say.
Right. As far as I know.
Now, as far as you know, was her boyfriend cooperative at all? Has he been talked to?
The detective did tell me that he did talk to him, and he denied it, and he believed him.
Okay. And I mean, it makes sense that anytime someone's murdered, they're going to look at the people closest to them, and as they should, and especially someone that has a history of abuse, they'd want to take an extra close look at him. But unfortunately, just without anything to go on, it sounds like no witnesses or anything, and it sounds like it could be also the possibility of a random attack. And I wonder if it's possible that you don't know Shannon, who was killed with her, but I wonder if maybe, he could have been the target and Heather was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. I wonder if police have looked into that possibility.
I don't know. But the detective just told me that Heather was in the wrong place at the wrong time. That's exactly the words he said. So other than that, that's all I know.
Wow.
I know that, it's like people ask me questions and I can't answer them because I have, I even called the detective. I said, can you at least tell me how many times Heather was shot? And he wouldn't tell me. I said, well, can you tell me what kind of gun was used? And I said, I've already seen the bullets where on the crime scene in the newspaper. I said it had the little yellow markers in it for every shell casing. So I said, I already know. And he said, yeah, he said it was a 9mm. And that's it.
Yeah, just a very common caliber handgun. Unfortunately, a lot of criminals will use them, so that could make it tougher. And I wish I could say where does the case stand right now, but it sounds like you don't even know because they're just not willing to talk to you, which again, I just keep circling back to. It's just, shameful to not just send you an email response or a phone call. It takes 60 seconds to call someone to send an email. I just, that bothers me a lot. And maybe again, working with a news reporter there, maybe they can write some things that can light a fire under his butt to at least do the right thing and reach out to you. Have you asked, you mentioned that the detective superior contacted you. Have you asked for a different detective, someone that's willing to at least talk to you or just update you or anything?
No, because, I didn't know you could. All this is just new to me. I'm lost of what to do, what not to do, or, what I can say or not.
Yeah. And I don't think there's any kind of manual about how to go about this kind of stuff or how you deal with it or what you're supposed to do. But, and I don't know if it's even possible, but I would I'd be the squeaky wheel getting the grease. I'd be the one going there saying, listen, I can't even get an email response. I can't even get a phone call from this detective. Can you put me with someone that's going to at least answer an email or return a call and just let them know, because maybe that supervisor will put someone else on the case or maybe put some pressure on this detective to at least acknowledge you. I get that some detectives aren't, their people person skills aren't the best, but at least do some kind of response, just to say, hey, I got your email. I'm working on it. I'm sorry, it's not solved yet. Something, again, I could type that up in 30 seconds and send that to you. There's no reason he can't. So it's just shameful. And I hope somehow, some way that you're going to get someone that's more helpful to you or responsive to you, or at least if this detective comes to his senses and starts communicating with you. Because that's again, if they're doing their best and they can't catch someone that's a killer, I understand that, but at least have the respect, the courtesy of contacting a murdered family member's loved one that's reaching out to you. That's just shameful that he can't do that. So, I know you've been very active in spreading the word about Heather's case. You've done interviews. Are there any websites or social media pages set up where people can go to and learn more about the case or to provide information or anything like that?
On Facebook, I have Justice for Heather Danielle Grigsby. I have that on Facebook. It has like 500 and something members. And it's basically just how it's got the clips, the interviews and everything from the different news networks and everything that comes on the TV or something. Then I add it on there, and it's mostly got pictures of Heather, and that's basically it.
Hopefully people, if they want to learn more about her case or they have information, they'll go to your Facebook page and get in touch with you and maybe share what they have, and then you can pass it along. And again, hopefully that if you pass it along, someone will actually respond to you and say, thanks, I got it, I'm going to check it out. But not holding out much hope for that. Until an arrest comes, until you can get justice for Heather, for whoever did this to her and her friend, what's a challenge? What are you looking at or worried about going forward as far as, going to court or having to face someone that did this? Is there anything you're nervous about or you're anxious about?
No, that I hope before I leave this world that I find out who murdered Heather. And I want to see them in court. And I just want to ask them, why? Why? She never bothered anybody. She never did anything to anyone that would want to hurt her or kill her. And, I can't say anything about the guy because I don't know him. But I'm not scared. I want to face somebody in court before I leave this world. I don't care if I have to go in there in a wheelchair.
Well, I hope that day comes for you. I hope there is an arrest made and you find out who did this and that person is taken off the street so they can't take anyone else's family member from them.
Right.
Hope that day comes for you. And I appreciate you taking the time to speak with me about Heather's case, and we'll be sure to share her story and hopefully send some people towards your Facebook page, and hopefully that leads to more information, leads, tips coming into you. Thank you once again for joining me for this episode of The Murder of My Family. I'd like to thank Sonny Landon for writing and research assistance in this episode. As we wrap up, I'd like to play a preview for a true crime podcast. It's called True Crime Horror Story. Be sure to give it a listen. We'll be back here soon with an all-new episode of The Murder of My Family, and I hope you'll join me for it. But before you go, remember that every murder victim means something to somebody.
I am your host, JD Horror, and this is True Crime Horror Story, a true crime podcast designed like an anthology horror movie. It's definitely not for the faint of heart and never played for laughs. Listener discretion is strongly advised. In seasons 1 through 4, we highlighted both notorious and obscure incidents of real-life murder. From world-famous psychopaths like the Toolbox Killers and Jeffrey Dahmer, to lesser-known evils that you may not have heard of, but have effects just as catastrophic for the victims and their families. Season 5 is coming soon, so subscribe now wherever podcasts can be consumed, and check out our website at www.truecrimehorrorstory.com. True Crime Horror Story. Sometimes truth is more brutal than fiction.